Hello and welcome again. This is the second in our series of career and graduate school exploration workshops. My name is Jason Aylmer. I'm a graduate student recruitment specialist here at the University of Maine with the graduate school. And I am joined again by Lisa Carter with the Career Center, and I'll turn it over to her.
Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to talk to you about some kind of tips and tricks in regards to one of the most important pieces of your application, your resume or CV. So we're going to go through it, and I'm going to show you some things and how to make your best resume or CV that you can when you apply to graduate school. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I need the host to allow me to share screens. Jason, technical difficulties. All right. Wonderful. Thanks, Jason. So hopefully everybody can see the Career Center's webpage here at the University of Maine. And on our homepage right here, we have our guide to resume writing. And so this is just a helpful kind of packet to get you thinking about ways that you can make your resume better. Hopefully at this time when you're applying to grad school, you have some iteration of a resume or a CV already going. So let's talk about the ways to make it really put together and ready to go when you're applying for grad school. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to my favorite page of kind of tips and tricks. Make it a little bit smaller so you can see it. So let's go through these when we think about creating a resume. So first of all, with any opportunity that you're applying for. So in this case, you're applying for graduate school into a certain program. And in addition to that, you may be applying for a assistantship. So a research assistantship, a teaching assistantship, a graduate assistantship, and those will, it's just like a job. You're applying for a job. So you'll need this resume or CV for those positions as well. If you choose to go down that route to coincide with going to grad school, which many people do. So either way, you need to make sure to customize these documents for each opportunity that you are applying for. So if you are wanting to apply for, let's say, a graduate degree in biochemistry, you're going to want to make sure that your resume reflects some of your skills and experiences. They're going to help you be the best biochem student that you can be. So whatever you do want to customize it for each opportunity. So when you're thinking about customizing it, you're like, okay, well, how do I do that? And so one thing that you can do is you can look with the program that you're applying for and think about some of the classes that you'll be taking, thinking about some of the skills you will be developing. And then you want to think about the skills that you currently have or the experiences that you have already gone through, and taking your experiences and skills and starting to try to align them up with what you're hopefully be learning in your graduate program. So as we kind of scroll through here, when you're applying for that next degree, typically education is at the top. It doesn't have to be, and you can really kind of organize your resume or CV as you see fit. But typically, since you're going back to school, this is a really salient part of your identity. And so education is typically at the top. And I think, as we said last time, you do not have to major in undergrad in a degree that you're going on to graduate school for. But if you have a very similar degree or something that flows really well into what you're going to graduate school for, it's really nice to have it right there at the top. So a lot of things that you can put on a resume that may be more specific to grad school might be some of your undergraduate research projects, or if this is a second degree, a second graduate degree, maybe some of your projects that you did previously, potentially some of your honors and awards, potentially some of your laboratory skills, or maybe some like student teaching experiences or clinical experiences. Those types of things would be really great to have on your resume. In addition to those types of skills that might be a little bit more like education focused, we do not want to forget many of the other experiences that you've had in your life. So what I mean there is like those transferable skills. So maybe you have worked at, a grocery store or something for 3 years on and off. You have developed a lot of transferable skills of interacting with customers, and some of those other kind of 21st century skills of leadership and supervising, and any of those things that will also aid to your work in graduate school. And so you don't want to just have it be education focused. You should bring in some of those other experiences as well. So with that, when we think about putting all of this together on a resume, we want to think about how can we best talk about the skills and experiences we have had, and how to, make that sound as good as possible on a resume. One of the suggestions that we say at the University of Maine Career Center is to highlight those out in a non-paragraph format. So as you can see on this example in front of you, there are bullet points. Some people use dashes, some people use asterisks, but either way, it allows the mind to kind of quickly go through things versus trying to filter through a paragraph form when you're talking about all of those job responsibilities or research responsibilities that you've had. So you can see right here, everything's kind of bullet pointed. It's really easy to read. It looks cleaned up. It looks professional. When you are talking about your experiences, we like to think about having those 5 things that really are all encompassing when you have them on your resume. So you want to talk about, where did you work? So the organization, where was it, the location, when did you work there, or when did you have those experiences, dates. And you want to make sure that you have your position listed. Were you a research assistant? Were you a sales clerk? Were you a landscape designer, whatever it might be. And then of course, having those bullet points to really describe what you did in that position. So making sure that you have all of those things for each experience. You also want to start out those bullet points with some sort of action word or verb. So instead of it being thinking about that paragraph format or having I statements, you really want it to be those action words. So as you can see here, developed, interviewed, demonstrated, assisted. So really getting right to the point of what you did and the experiences and skills that you obtained. So on from there, we want to think about, so what are some other areas that you may want to have on your resume or CV? So I like to think about that. Maybe you have some volunteering, maybe you have some travel experience, maybe you have a study abroad experience, maybe you have, let's see, what are some other things? Some leadership. Maybe you were involved in a student organization where you held a leadership role, or maybe you worked with some philanthropy, some of those types of things. So all of those experiences are really valid and worth putting on your resume. You just kind of have to filter through things a little bit to make sure that you're customizing it for the position that you're going for. And try to not discount some of the experiences you've had, because a lot of times you gain those transferable skills that we were talking about earlier. So just to kind of keep going down here through our pro tips with your resume, this is one of those things that you want to go over and go over and go over. Maybe have a friend look at it. Maybe utilize your local university's career center, or come to us if you know that you're going to be an incoming student. But it's one of those things that you really want to make sure is free of any types of mistakes, that the formatting is all consistent, it's easy to read, that your grammar is appropriate and on point, and that it's polished. Especially when you're applying for a secondary degree, you want it to be really put together. So lastly, in kind of our bonus section here, you want to think about, how is this information going to be saved? Do you want to save it as a PDF? Do you want to save it as a Word document? How are you submitting it? If you are, interacting with people in person, make sure that you have it on resume paper. Those types of things are all really important when you're dealing with this professional document. So all of that is kind of thinking about the resume and how does that make a resume strong? And so I do want to touch on the CV a little bit, but I might stop for a second. Jason, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that so far before I touch on the CV?
No, that's great. I think, whether you are applying to a job or applying to school, a lot of times, as you mentioned with the assistantship piece, very similar. The folks that are making the hiring decisions or the decision to bring you on in either graduate teaching assistantship or research assistantship are looking sometimes for the same things. Certain programs, the CV, which you're going to talk about in a minute, make more sense. But the resume really is a good sort of highlight reel for yourself. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. So let's touch on the CV a little bit. And I do want to say that for some international students or students who are applying for graduate school here at University of Maine that are from outside of Canada and the United States, a CV may be the common nomenclature for resume. So CV is a little bit more of an international terminology. And then here in the States, we really see the distinction between a resume and a CV, as a CV is something that is used more for academic purposes. And so if you're applying to grad school, knowing that you're going to be kind of going down that academic route, then a CV may be a really great place to start right now. And CVs are typically longer, much longer than resumes, as they're kind of, you keep adding on chronologically every time that you do something, meaning that every experience you have, you're going to probably add it on there. Every presentation that you do, you're going to add it on there. Every workshop you attend, every publication that you are a part of is going to just be added onto a CV. And so your CV will just continue to get longer and longer. You could potentially Google some CVs here at the University of Maine, and many faculty will have them attached to their kind of staff information or faculty information. And some might be, 15 to 20 pages long or more. So beginning and starting out creating a CV, it's going to be shorter, and that's okay. Or it's typically shorter than what you may see of a seasoned faculty member of, 20, 30 years. But the main difference is it's going to be really academic related. It's going to be more academic than a resume would be. So it may not include that job at a grocery store, but it may have a lot more like research positions on there, research opportunities that you have participated in, conferences that you have attended, information on mentors that you have been under, or labs that you have worked at. So it's going to have a lot more of that type of information on a CV than a resume would, although a resume can have many of those same things. It's just in a bit more of a condensed format. So I would say if you have a plan to have your life kind of go into grad school and continue in academia, this could be a really great point to begin cultivating that CV. So that being said, I think that might be kind of my final thoughts on the resume and CV. And so I'm going to hand it over to Jason. And of course, Jason, if you can think about anything that you would like to add, feel free to go ahead. So over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, the CV is really, like you said, a super detailed document, all your publications, all, workshop, all that. So if you are curious about, which one should I include, but what makes sense for my application, I'm going to put up some contact information at the end so you can kind of reach out, and I'd be more than happy to chat about that in depth, one-on-one or what have you. So what I'm going to talk about today is somewhat in correlation to what Lisa was talking about. I'm going to start looking at the personal statement or essay that gets requested for a lot of the applications, and then we'll jump into see what our online application actually looks like as well, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end for either of us. So let's take a look. So first, I am going to share my screen, and we are going to take a look at one of our department's different requirements really for writing a statement of purpose. So again, really, I know when we're looking at applying to grad school, sometimes the first thing you think about is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to write about myself. What is this, what do they want? How long does that have to be? So a lot of departments do spell out for you all those sorts of different parameters around either what they call your essay, statement of purpose, personal essay. There's all kinds of different words for it, phrases for it. But in this case, we are just going to take a quick look at the English department for the grad school, graduate program here at the University of Maine. So we have a Master's of Arts program, and they look at some of the things to complete. And the last one here is a 750-word statement of purpose in response to the following prompt. So they give you a word count and then also an actual prompt of what exactly you should be answering and addressing in your statement of purpose. As a side note, they also have a separate one for those interested in becoming a teaching assistant in their program as well. So there's a very clear, and again, just wanted to share this with you because it really is kind of good advice for a lot of the different statements of purpose. And it's this little section right here that I like. It says, in this essay, try to give us a more three-dimensional picture of your candidacy, which might include addressing topics like what interests you about our program specifically, what draws you to Northern New England, what subject areas you're hoping to explore while studying here, and then any specific graduate faculty you might wish to work with and why. And then there's a couple other options, but that really kind of helps encapsulate, I think, crystallizes for departments if you are taking a look and getting to work on starting your application and the department doesn't have something spelled out like this. This kind of gives a kind of a good rule of thumb, because it's not strictly really about yourself, but it's helping the department paint a picture in their mind about what kind of fit, an excellent fit you would be for that program. And some of those little pieces within there, like, if you're from across the country or something, why do you want to come to Maine? Or something that's drawing you here? Do you have a family connect? Whatever it is, really paint that three-dimensional picture to help them understand, what you're bringing to the program, and really, what you hope to get out of it. What drew you? Why are you excited about coming to UMaine? Why do you want to study English? So it is really a time to shine. It doesn't have to be really witty. Some people try to make it humorous, and it's really the idea really is to get kind of your point across. It doesn't have to be poetic, anything like that. It sometimes can be very, very black and white, but they want to see a little bit of you on the paper, so to speak. So I wanted to highlight that, and also highlight that when you're looking at working on some of these documents, whether it's this or getting your folks lined up who are going to write your letters of recommendation, it really helps when you're going to apply to have all of this stuff done. It makes the whole process so much easier. And the application itself, which we're going to jump into, our online application, really, when you have everything else already lined up and ready to go and upload, it's just a 20 to 30 minute jaunt. It's very laid back, super user friendly, and have a much better experience if you're not trying to write this while you're applying. And so I think kind of breaking it up into little segments makes it a much easier and smoother process. So I will bring up our application now. So I created a test account to share with everybody. and I have logged in. And I'm going to go in and show you. Actually, let's go do that first here. We'll take a look at our website, and then we'll go to the application. So this is our University of Maine graduate school website, umaine.edu/graduate. And it has a whole bunch of great information off the bat, including the option to apply, and then we click on our banner here. As we talked about a little bit, there's some more detailed information down here, like if you are an international applicant looking at specific test scores, options for financing your education, those sorts of things. Your application checklist has some great information, but normally you just want to go and jump into the application itself. So I will bring that back up here. So once you log in, if you've already started an application, which I have, the great news is it gives you a little reminder on how far along you are, what you may need to complete. And when we jump in, it's going to load up and then give you on this left-hand side a whole bunch of little bubbles that kind of let you know what has been completed, what has been partially completed, or what hasn't even been filled out yet. So we have all of your pertinent information, name, mailing address, that sort of stuff. And again, this is a really nice little section here that kind of breaks down all the different topics. So let's say that you had started your essay and you were filling everything out, and then you had this great idea about what to change. You can always log out and come back in. And then you just click on this section and it lets you go immediately and upload whatever you need to change. You can also, if you apply for a specific program and then you realize, oh my gosh, I clicked the wrong thing, or you know what, I really want to try the PhD, I really want to apply to the PhD program instead of the master's program, you can do that. You can go in and update your application type and change those things. So it's not set in stone. So again, the different sections we have is contact, your personal information, application information. We click on that. Again, this is just reminding you, the program that you are applying to. You can choose whether you're full-time or part-time, things like on campus, the term that you want to apply for, those sorts of things. Your educational history, we do get a lot of questions like, I took one class at a community college or something like that. Really, any of those academic pursuits after high school, anything like that, we would love to see. It's going to apply in one way or another. There'll be a GPA attached to it, all those sorts of things. So any of those academic records you would want to go ahead and put in here. When you're putting in the institution name, sometimes the way that the system recognizes, like UCLA is University of California, Los Angeles, you may not find exactly what you're looking for, and it may come up unknown school, and that's okay. We can clarify later and all those sorts of things. But you would ideally find your school here, what program you were in, are you still in that program, when you attended, your bachelor's degree, what degree you earned, your GPA, and then the transcript. When you're applying, you can go ahead and the idea is that you don't need to have the official documents when you're applying right now. So anything that you've downloaded from like a school's website, if you do have an old paper copy of your transcript, you can scan and upload. Any of those documents work. It's something that allows the department to really get an idea of your educational history. We don't need the actual official transcripts until you have been accepted, and then we would need those once you start classes. So if you have them, if you request them and send them, that's great. But you don't need them out of the gate. So the essay, which we've just talked about, the resume that Lisa was talking about, you may notice occasionally that the programs that you're applying to have different requirements. So sometimes the program won't have you don't need to write an essay. You might not need to take the GRE. So it's not going to look the same for everybody, but that's okay. Then we have your recommendations, the standardized tests, like we talked about the GRE, and any sort of additional information or disciplinary information, etc. So once you're done, you can save and continue. And then the last thing that you'll go ahead and want to do is pay your application fee and send it off to us. And then the way the applications work here at the school is that they come into the graduate school and then they go off to your department for review, and then they make their decisions from there. So in just a minute, we're going to open it up to questions here. Again, the main thing is, that like I said, we want to streamline this and make this as user-friendly as possible. If you have any questions, you get stuck, you have user error, whatever, let me know. The last thing I'm going to share here real quick is my contact information. I'm going to put it up here for now, and then on our YouTube channel, there'll be other options to take a look at this information. But love to hear from you. We can set up a Zoom time to talk about some different options or what have you. But we really appreciate your time. So I think what we'll do, Lisa, unless you have any other thoughts or comments, is we'll jump into questions. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. I think can I add just one thing about about the personal statement or the graduate essay? I think that you really you hit on the fact that it may be different for different programs, and I think that it is so important to make sure that you are responding to responding to the expectations of the program that you're applying to. So, right in the application, it said to write a 300 to 500 word essay versus the English departments that was, approximately 750 words with certain prompts. So I think it's really important to know what your program expects and to be able to have that reflected in your essay and to, abide by kind of the rules that they're looking for.
Excellent. So right out of the gate, we have question number 1, which is going to be for Lisa. Two-part question. How do I know when I might or might not be qualified for a job given my experience? And how do I know which jobs are most worth my time and effort in applying for?
All right. So how do you know when you might or might not be qualified for a job? So I think that when you're thinking about applying for a job, kind of the first step is to see what the job description is like, or the description of the program if it's for grad school. Then you want to think about your own personal experiences and think, how do those two align? Think about those transferable skills and what have they taught you over the years, and what experiences have you gained that are going to make you qualified for this position. So it's really hard for me to say like whether or not you'll know, but I do think that if you prepare your resume and tailor it to and customize it to what you're applying for, that's going to give you a really good chance to get your foot in the door, right? Because that resume and cover letter or graduate school essay, they're going to get you in the door. And then from there, you may have an interview, or you may be able to talk on the phone, and you may be able to kind of further explain your qualifications and how you're a best fit for that job. All right, so let's see, second part of the question. How do I know which jobs are most worth my time and effort in applying for? Whew, that's a tough one. I'm a big fan of quality over quantity. And so I think that if you kind of start back where, I began when answering this question of aligning what experiences and skills that you already have with what you're applying for, that might give you an idea of, is it worth applying, seeing how those two really overlap. And also, I think it's really important to think about what is the organization that you're applying for? What are they like? So if it's graduate school, what's the program like? Who are the faculty you would be working with? And if it's a job, what is that organization's mission, values, and how does that align with your own mission and values? And do those things help to give you the information on knowing whether or not it's worth it for you? So those would be my answers for those two questions.
Thank you. Up next, how much weight is placed on my essay in the overall review of my application? So this is a great question. A lot of when we're looking at how application review works, especially at the graduate level, it really is what you would call a holistic approach. We are working with a model that allows the faculty members who are reviewing, the committee that are reviewing your application. Again, as I mentioned, it comes into the grad school, we review it to make sure all the parts and pieces are there, and then hand it off to the department for review through their committee or whatever approach they use. And it's really putting a lot of emphasis on weight on a number of different topics. So it's not to take away and make any one less important, but it also gives you the opportunity for one of them or a couple of them to really shine. So for example, if you're, let's say you're applying to a PhD program and it involves lab work and you have some lab experience, but not a lot, but you may have some sort of related amazing experience that you can touch on in your essay, you can highlight it in your resume, so that when they're looking at and weighing your experience versus some other things, that essay really becomes a good supporting document for you. So the idea really is that for it to help you and not necessarily hurt you. You want this to really underpin what you're presenting. So again, there isn't really like a 30%. It doesn't sort of shake out like that. But it's really important to make sure that it is supporting and can help bolster the argument of why you should be in the program. So next up, where can I access the resume document from the earlier presentation? And that is Lisa.
Great question. It is on the University of Maine's Career Center's homepage. So it's umaine.edu/career, and it's right there on the front page. And you could also access it if you wanted to go to the University of Maine's just general homepage, and you could always type in the search guide to resume writing. So either or, whatever works best for you.
Excellent. Next, what happens if I've already sent in my grad school application but realize I want to make a change on my essay or resume? What do I do? So, well, you can do a couple different things. Don't panic, number one, don't do that. You can always reach out to myself, reach out to the grad school, explain what has happened. If you are already working with a faculty advisor, some programs ask you to identify a faculty advisor before you even begin the application process. You can let him or her know and send those documents to them. We want to get you basically connected with the graduate coordinator for the program. Explain your thoughts and feelings on the subject and see if they are willing to accept an updated or amended version if they haven't already reviewed your application entirely. So it does depend a little bit on a case-by-case basis, but let us know and we will do our best to get the updated version reviewed. For Lisa, where is the best place to start a job search?
Oh my. That's a great question. And there are so many answers to that question. Our previous session, we focused a lot on career exploration. And I think that that's kind of a good place to start when you're thinking about what you want to do for a career, where you would find a job. So a lot of times I like to think about accessing the local information that you have of where you want to be geographically, thinking about what organizations are in that area, and just kind of familiarizing yourselves with those organizations' websites and seeing if there's any job opportunities, looking in local newspapers. previously we talked about, the whole Indeed and those types of sites. And while those aren't bad, they're just, it's just like it's going down a rabbit hole. There's a lot of information on Indeed. And so while maybe you could start with Indeed, I like to think about going a little bit more local when you're thinking about searching for that job. In addition to just thinking about searching online, reach out to people in your network, and a lot of people get jobs through networking. Reach out to people that you know on LinkedIn, those types of places, and hopefully you can make the connections. But kind of referencing the last question, I do believe in quality over quantity, and so being really thoughtful when you're thinking about which jobs that you want to apply for when you're searching.
Thank you. Is it too late to apply to grad school for the fall? No, it is not. So let's, I'm going to bring up our grad school website here again and show you something real quick to take a look at. So on here, when we go up at the top here to programs, we can search by application deadline, and then we can go down to the programs that have a rolling deadline or a rolling until full deadline. What you want to do is go ahead and reach out and connect to myself or someone at the grad school, and we can definitely talk about what would be a really great fit for you, potentially what you're interested in accomplishing, those sorts of things. But these programs accept applications year-round and review them year-round, so that there's the option potentially to still get into the fall. So as you can see, there's quite a few that are still rolling. You can see whether they're on campus or online, if what might work for you. But we definitely do still have options. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know. Any other questions out there? Oh, I think that is it. So thank you, Lisa, so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed talking to all of you, and can't wait to see you again. We'll have some more updated information on what our next series is going to be, what topics we're going to cover. Yeah, we're just super glad to have you. Lisa, is there anything you want to add?
No, just happy to be here. And if anyone needs any help with application materials at the Career Center here at the University of Maine, we're always willing to help to get people prepared to enter that next step.
Excellent. Thanks again. Have a great day.